And by the way, the gross minimum wage in California is $16 an hour.
Yeah, but the gross minimum wage is before taxes. Again, like guys, I'm on the same team. I'm agreeing with the points, but I see this a lot online where people will like skew the data or not be consistent, and your argument is actually a lot weaker in the end. Dr. Rachel Southard, DO, exposing medical training, debt, hour salary toxicity.
There has been a lot of talk going on in the medical space on the internet about people quitting medicine. What is all the fuss about? What's going on? Why are people quitting medical school? Why are people quitting residency? What is going on? Let's explore that. Let's talk about medical training. Let's talk about residency salaries, medical school debt. If this is the first video that you're watching of mine, my name is Rachel Southard. I am a second-year OBGYN resident physician in the United States.
Kudos to Rachel for actually sharing that she's a DO. I feel like there's a lot of DO creators that choose to obfuscate that and they'll just say Dr. So-and-so.
People are quitting medicine, and people quit a lot of things. They quit their jobs, they quit their hobbies, they quit relationships. People quit. It's because they have the choice to quit, and that's really not something new.
If you think about people who never change their mind about something like diet and nutrition or exercise or even politics, right? Then you already know that person's not a very serious thinker because they've made a decision about something and now they're gonna die on that hill no matter what new data and new information comes their way. Take that same approach to your life decisions about your career. You made a decision when you were younger, less experienced, didn't know as much as you know now, and to say, I'm gonna die on this hill because I made this decision 10 years ago, it's kind of strange. And that doesn't mean people should quit, but it means that if you change your mind, there's no shame in quitting.
The reason why I feel that the medical community or people on the internet are giving so much attention to the event when a medical student or a resident physician or attending physician quits medicine is because it is very well known outside and within the medical community that medical training is incredibly long, it's expensive, it's brutal, it can be very traumatic, toxic.
When I told people that I was quitting plastic surgery, so many residents and even some med students told me that they had considered quitting themselves. And I was shocked at the percentage. We've done a few reactions with Rachel, and I think in some of those prior videos, I think she was also considering quitting if I recall correctly.
It's truly an honor to be in this position. I feel very fortunate to be a physician, but great things, great moments, they will always shine brighter against a backdrop of hardship. And I have seen people quit medicine. I have seen people take their life because of medicine, and we really need to talk about it.
Yeah, I think most people that are in medicine know someone personally who has taken their life, which is a whole nother really troubling thing that I don't think gets enough attention. I actually had created this initiative, Save Our Doctors, a few years back to raise awareness about this. And it's such a large, complicated problem that, I don't even know where to start, but I think awareness is a good first step.
I am not quitting medicine. I don't plan to quit medicine. I love it way too much. It is a part of me. But I'm not going to lie to you and say that I've never thought about quitting. There is an overwhelming feeling that we do not have enough time for ourselves and enough time for our well-being as a human being. There's so much strain on our mental health. There are toxic hierarchies that still persist in medicine and especially in surgical specialties. We deal with traumatic events on a daily basis that most people in their lives will never come across, and we don't have enough time to process them. And don't even get me started on the pay. I will get to that later in this video.
Everything Rachel mentioned, very valid, and it all boils down, I would argue, into two main things. Number one, lots of people want to become doctors, especially in the US, and for that reason, med schools, training systems, hospitals don't have to treat you super well because if you don't want to do it, guess what? All these other people will. And then number two, once you're in the system, once you're in med school, once you've taken out $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 of loans, you feel trapped because if you quit, how are you going to pay that back? If you continue and you become a fully trained attending physician, it's a lot easier to pay that back. So it's something that people don't like to talk about because they want to say that the only reason they want to become a doctor is to help people. But here's the thing. If being a fully trained attending physician only paid you 40 grand a year in the US, 99% of people wouldn't be doing it. In no other industry can you find a profession that is so low risk in the sense that if you follow the steps and you go, one foot after the next, you end up making mid six figures with prestige, with respect, etc. Your family's proud of you, all those things. The main risk is actually just getting into med school and then getting into residency. But once you do those two things and you put in the work, you're gonna be fine. And there's no other industry that allows for that. And think about it this way. Why do so many international doctors, people who have already finished their training overseas, still want to come to the US and are willing to repeat their residency where you get paid a lot less and where it's very challenging? It's because after residency as an attending physician, You work not as bad hours. It's still, like 50 to 60 hours per week on average, which is still high, but you make very good money, you have prestige, etc. And then finally, to round this out, if you even look at the specialties that are more or less competitive within medicine, you're going to see lifestyle and compensation has a high degree of correlation with which specialties are more desirable to medical students. And you can see this trend yourself across the years at specialtyrank.com. So you have every specialty in the NRMP match listed with the official NRMP data, and you have your step score, your match rate, things like that. And then you can even play with the data. So if you think step 2 score is more or less important than match rate, you can actually adjust the slider and the rankings will update in real time. And you're gonna see compensation on the right-hand column, and you'll see that correlation that I'm talking about. Check it out at specialtyrank.com.
As another little disclaimer, I do want to say that my particular residency program is incredible, and it, I think, is different than most of the other residency programs in the United States, in that it abides by the ACGME laws or guidelines or whatever they are. They support their residents, they care about us.
A lot of programs don't.
For people who have thought about quitting and then don't end up quitting, I think that it's spread across a variety of reasons for why they stay. People love their patients. They love their patients. I love my patients. I don't want to leave.
That's awesome. From what I've seen for myself and for co-residents, I think there's most patients are chill. They're cool. Some patients you're like, oh my God, I absolutely love working with you. This is fantastic. And then a certain 5%, you're just like, oh my God, please.
Some people also stay for the hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt that we are in from getting to this place in our academic or professional career.
One thing that a lot of pre-meds don't know is that if you go MD versus DO versus international, your debt burden is going to increase. So MDs on average are going to have lower debt than DOs. DOs on average are going to have lower debt than international.
We can have passions that we love so deeply, and that can be the very thing that destroys us. Find what you love and let it kill you. And you can take that as literal as you want. You can be enveloped within the thing that you love so very much to the point of self-destruction. Or you cannot be blindly obedient. You can take a step back and look at the bigger picture and think, I won't be able to do the thing that I love so very much if I let it completely destroy me.
Yeah, it's about putting your own oxygen mask on first. And I think a lot of doctors are brainwashed into thinking that if they don't work themselves into the ground and put in 80, 90, 100-hour weeks in residency and skip meals and not sleep enough, then they don't care enough about their patients and that the patients need them, which is really interesting because if it was really just about serving the patients, then why aren't there more mid-levels to help the residents? And why are the residents doing the mid-levels work? I know at my program, there was one NP, there should have been more. And oftentimes they were out. And even when they were in, we still had to do a lot of stuff that really we would never be doing as attending physicians. We were just cheap labor. So don't look at your doctors not working themselves into the ground and working 100-hour weeks and say, hey, you don't care enough about your patients. Look at the administration, who's not hiring enough support staff, who's not actually letting the residents focus on becoming the best doctors they can be, which includes letting yourself sleep enough for memory consolidation, health, etc. Because what they want to do is, again, money. And it's the whole money comes from both angles. Money is a massive reason that people love to deny why people want to become physicians. And similarly, money is why hospitals and administration are able to squeeze so much out of residents because they know they're going to put up with it. So the hospital gets to save so much money because of Medicare subsidies, and the residents are putting in so much more value than they're getting paid. And then the med students and the residents are willing to put up with it because at the end of that tunnel, they're going to make a lot of money. Maybe it's me just getting older and cynical, I don't know. But as I get older, this truth just becomes more and more glaringly obvious.
Some people may have thought about quitting and choose to stay because they want to improve this process for others. It doesn't have to be like this. We can have realistic solutions that make medical training better. Do I think the realistic solutions will make medical training completely pain-free? No, I mean, that's not realistic, because as human beings, we do need a bit of a challenge. We need a bit of a strain. We need that for our character develop, to, have resilience. We need to go through hard things to find growth.
Humans, by their nature, always need to push against something and struggle against something. So I have known people, some even very, very closely, who had picture perfect lives. You look at their family, you look at their upbringing, you look at where they live, you look at everything, you're like, wow, I wish I had your life. This is incredible. I'm so happy for you. But then they would find things to struggle and push against. And you're like, wait, you getting 3 stars on an Airbnb host reviewing you is causing this nervous breakdown and sobbing and losing control? So no matter what the situation is, you will always push and struggle against something, which is actually why for my kids, I do not want to give them too easy of a life because I think there are actual significant downsides to that. You don't have the resilience, you don't have the character. And looking back, I am grateful for challenging childhood, very challenging college with getting hospitalized and moving to a 1-bedroom apartment with my mom and brother. There were times that really, really sucked. But as Rachel alludes to, it builds character. Like, you mature at a different rate and you grow into the kind of person that you probably want to actually be. And the other thing, I love how Rachel is also focused on making things better. I saw a lot of struggling. One of my classmates also took his own life, and I saw a lot of issues with medical training. And I was really, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed when I was leaving plastic surgery, and I was like, hey, my vision is that in the future, I want to start this hospital that is going to do things differently, and there's a training system that blah, blah, blah is going to proof of concept, and then we're going to change how medical training is done in the US. And, getting to that point is, I don't think I understood what that takes. I obviously didn't understand how you get to that point. But still, even at Med School Insiders, our core mission, like every single person we hire and every decision we do is around our mission statement, which is to create a generation of happier, healthier, and more effective doctors. And there's 2 ways you can approach that. Obviously, you want to change and improve the system, but waiting for that to happen or even trying to make that happen and working hard at it, it's going to take a long, long time to make a small improvement. That's unfortunately the way the system is. It's such a big, complex, and established system. The other angle, and where we focus a lot, is how do you actually help the med students and the residents cope with a very suboptimal system? How do you optimize time management, productivity, study strategies, test taking skills, stress, your self-talk, whether or not you should even go into medicine? We have so many videos that work against our own business interests that tell people do not become doctors. Now, medicine is a fantastic profession, but what I say is that out of 100 students that want to become doctors, only 75 will be happy. And the biggest decision is determining whether you're part of the 75 or the 25. And that's why we have so much content showing you what it's like to be a physician in a given specialty in our Day in the Life series, or our So You Want to Be series on Med School Insiders, where we work with actual specialists in that field and they help us create this video that gives you the insider insights as to whether or not you would enjoy this field. So a big part of it is educating yourself about what medicine actually is, because it's not the TV shows. And then number 2, being really honest with yourself, your priorities, your values, and who you are as a person to determine whether or not medicine is the right field for you.
I think there are some med influencers in this online space that are a tad bit counterproductive in the majority's effort to improve or drive change in medical training, and only because of their overly positive sentiments about residency training. Just digest that content with the following things in mind.
When you're just overly positive, then you can't have the honest conversation that there are significant issues. And this harkens back to the whole Instagram med influencer.
Look at me in my fresh white coat. Let me take these selfies. Life is so good. I love my life. Being a doctor is awesome.
It's like they're trying to overhype their life and say, hey, look how great everything is. Look how great I am. And it's fake.
Some people are overly positive because they fear retaliation from their program, because that is a very, very valid fear for residents. They want to keep up with their image and their brand of just being a really positive person. And I think having a positive perspective is a great way to view the world. But I think being realistic is also very important.
Well, you can be optimistic without painting something as completely 100% good, right?
Residency or medical training can be very great. I have some the best moments in my life so far are during residency. And I don't want to compare this to being an inmate in jail or a soldier in war, but similarly, they can also have really great moments and great times, even in the roughest of circumstances.
Well, you're in a pressure cooker, and when you're going through something very challenging and you have people nearby, it brings you closer together, it adds meaning, and yeah, you can actually derive a lot of satisfaction from it. I found med school to be the most enjoyable time in my training, especially the first 2 years. I got to hang out with friends, work really hard, build these connections, and maybe part of that too was my college was rough, but med school was some of my favorite years.
If I were to sugarcoat everything and all of my experiences, I would be doing a huge disservice to people who are fighting for a change in medical training. I would be doing a disservice to all of the people who have quit or have taken their own life because of this profession. Glossing over all of the difficulties of this field, I think it not only invalidates all of these other people's experiences, but it also undermines the effort that people are putting forward to drive change.
Well said.
But with that being said, I want to switch over to more of some nitty gritty things with resident salaries and how much we work, medical school debt. Obviously, resident work hours and salary is definitely contributing to people wanting to quit. And I'm going to be completely honest, my medical school debt is basically almost at $400,000.
The average is about 260. So that's the average. You're going to have people above that, a lot of people below that. Actually, I was shocked at our UCSD exit financial thing. If you had any loans, you were required to attend this talk. And if you didn't have any loans, you did not have to attend the talk. And 30% of our class did not have to attend the talk. And I was like, holy crap, here I am. Like one student each year earns like their highest merit-based scholarship. So I earned that. I got all my tuition covered, most of my living expenses. I had like 20 or 30K in loans from all of med school, which is like very low, right? And yet I still had some loans despite having the highest merit-based scholarship. And I was like, oh wow, now I get it. Why people say that a lot of people who become doctors are from well-to-do families. Not all of them, but a significant portion, right? I mean, me and my buddies, we were like, 30%? That's way higher than we would expect to have zero med school loans.
And it's going up every single day. So that sucks for me.
Yeah, I wonder what her interest rate is too. It's probably like 5, 6, 7% at least. And when you're in residency, you're still making minimum payments, but those minimum payments are just like chipping away a little bit at interest. They're not even getting to the principal. And that's why the amount, especially when it's such a large amount, just keeps ballooning up.
Based on 2023 data, the average American works 36.4 hours per week. That's 145.6 hours per month. And that's basically 1,900 hours worked per year. The average gross salary of the average American is between $60,000 to $70,000 per year, calculating to an average gross hourly wage of $28 to $34 an hour. Based on 2018 data, the average resident physician works 60 hours per week. Personally, I've worked lately, 2 of the weeks of the month have been about 80 hours a week, and then the other 2 are 60 hours per week.
I didn't really calculate my average. I remember my opto rotation was super chill, but other than that, it was like 70 to 80, sometimes a little bit more than that per week. Most of you are going to be somewhere between 50 and 70 on average, but then if you're in surgery, closer to 80. If you're in neurosurgery, higher than 80. If you're in derm or family medicine, radiology, pathology, you're going to be on the lower end of that. But yeah, many of you are going to have really rough weeks. I mean, even internal medicine, right? You have ICU rotations. And the 80-hour work weeks and barely having a second for yourself really sums up residency. So you're making critical decisions when you're running on fumes. And the truth is, most residents, they have no idea what's actually happening to their bodies by doing this. And I know I didn't, because back then, continuous glucose monitors weren't even available to the public. So there was no way of knowing how much the sleep deprivation was actually impacting my metabolism, my metabolic health. So it wasn't until years later, after residency, when I finally started using a CGM that I could see the damage in real time. And at that point, after leaving residency, I wasn't even nearly as sleep deprived, and sleep deprivation makes your metabolic health and your glucose response a lot worse. So I can only imagine how bad things looked during residency itself. So that's what actually led me to using levels in the first place. And ever since, I've been hooked on the insights. I actually bought it back in 2019 with my own cash, and I've been using it ever since, more than 5 years. And now you don't get just glucose data anymore. They've also added comprehensive metabolic and cardiovascular markers all in one app. It's more complete than what you get from an annual physical, and instead of juggling different portals, you see the full picture of your health in just one place. So for anyone wanting to understand how their lifestyle is shaping their health, Levels makes it simple and clear. Try it yourself using my exclusive discount in the description.
So that's about 280 hours worked per month. That's 3,360 hours worked per year. And based on 2023 AAMC data, a first-year resident earns on average $63,800 before taxes. After taxes, it's about $46,000 a year.
I like what you're doing, Rachel, but you didn't talk about post-tax on the left side, and now you're doing it on the right side. So we gotta be consistent with the comparison. Otherwise, people can just poke holes and then see that it's not a totally honest comparison. So 60 to 70 versus 63. So like it's right in the range of the median, right?
And check it out. If you work about, an average of 60 to 80 hours per week, your average hourly pay is about $18 an hour before taxes. And after taxes, it's about $13 per hour.
The whole take home post-tax thing is just, I think weakens the argument, honestly.
And by the way, the gross minimum wage in California is $16 an hour.
Yeah, but the gross minimum wage is before taxes. Again, guys, I'm on the same team. I'm agreeing with the points, but I see this a lot online where people will skew the data or not be consistent. And if you're in medicine and if you've done any research yourself, you should understand the importance of making apple to apple comparisons and the data legitimacy and validity. So when people start skewing this stuff because they're trying to make their point and then they start saying, oh, post-tax, or you see this on Reddit a lot where people will exaggerate things or cherry pick data, it just weakens your argument because people can then see through the fact that it's not an honest comparison and your argument is actually a lot weaker in the end.
Funny enough, I was actually researching all about resident salaries dating all the way back to the 1960s, which, yeah, they were significantly less, but so was also the average income of the standard American household in the 1960s. And so if you adjust for inflation, residents now aren't making that much more than they did compared to a resident in the 1960s. And I do recognize that there are more restrictions on our work hours. Things are much more humane compared to how they were back then. There's still room for improvement.
You know why they're called residents, right? Because you were a resident of the hospital. You slept in the hospital. And especially in surgical fields, it was really fucking weird back then. Certain programs would take pride in their divorce rate. Oh, our residents have a 100% divorce rate. We work them so hard and we abuse them so terribly that their marriages, none of them last. Weird fucking times.
I want to end this heavy video by saying that I love medicine. Medical training is important. It's a necessity, and I just think that there is a better way to do it to protect the well-being of our future physicians and our current physicians.
Rachel, love watching your videos. They're always super thoughtful, and I agree. I think the first step is having these conversations. My friends, let me know what you think with a comment down below. Much love, and I'll see you all in that next one.